All right, peace. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, give honor and praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Give a double honors to 7130 South Chicago that taught me this truth. Give a double honors to all the brothers and sisters that the Creator has awoken in these last days. With that being said, peace and shalom. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to go into a discussion that was being had by some brothers. They was building on who the Greeks were and who the Gentiles are, right? So it's a brother, they classify him as an ex-Hebrew Israelite. He's going against some Hebrew brothers on the street, and they building on the fact of who the Gentiles and the Greeks were, right? So I'm going to be listening to it, but I'm going to be stopping the video here and there, and I'm going to be commentating on certain things. So before we start the video,
he wasn't a Gentile? Did it not say that his father was a Greek? He was uncircumcised? He was uncircumcised?
Let me make a quick point, right? Because you're talking about the Greek and you're talking about the Hebrew, right? When you read Acts the 16th chapter, and it says Timothy's father was a Greek, what is that word in the Greek? What does it translate to?
I've been studying Hebrew. I don't know Greek, but what is it? You know it probably.
Okay, we'll show you. Go to Acts 16:1. Can you pull that word? You're talking about the Greek and you're talking about the Hebrew, right? When you read Acts the 16th chapter, and it says Timothy's father was a Greek, what is that word in the Greek? How does it translate to? I don't know Greek, but what is it? You know it probably. Okay, we'll show you. Go to Acts 16:1. Can you pull that word?
now, if don't nobody really know, the reason why he's asking that is he asking the brother that I think the brother is like a Christian or whatever now, right? But he's asking them, do you understand what the concept of Greek, what during that time when they used the word Greek, what do they mean by that? You know what I'm saying? What is the concept of the word Greek, right? And the reason for this is that one of the teachings in quote-unquote One West is that when it's talking about the Greeks, right, that those are quote-unquote
In the Greek, in Acts chapter 16, it's the book of, read Acts 16:1.
Acts 16 verse 1. Right. Then he came to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed.
Right, his mother was a Jewess. She was an Israelite who knew and accepted the fact that she was an Israelite, and she believed in the Most High. But what?
But his father was a Greek.
But his what?
But his father was a Greek.
But his father was a Greek. Now, is Greek a biblical nationality?
Grecians were described in the Bible, yeah. In Daniel.
Is Greeks a biblical nationality? Yes
What is it that's biblical nationality? Explain that. Or expound on
Canaanite is
that.
a biblical nationality, right? Moabite, Edomite, Israelite, right? Hold on, those are, you asked me to explain, those are biblical nationalities. Now again, the question is Greek, is that a biblical nationality?
Are you asking me, does Greek be mentioned in the scripture?
No, I'm asking you, there are nations of people that God made.
Right.
Is Greek one of the nations that come out of Shem, Ham, or Japheth? Are any of their descendants throughout the lineage of Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 11th chapter, are they called Greeks?
Yes.
Okay, where in Genesis chapter 10 or Genesis 11? Is Greek one of the nations that come out of Shem, Ham, or Japheth? Are any of their descendants throughout the lineage of Genesis, the 10th chapter, 11th chapter, are they called Greeks? Yes. Okay, where in Genesis chapter 10 or 11?
Now he's asking them about if the Greeks, is that a biblical nationality? Like when you listening to people, some people, they have a get for gab. Like they'll try to trick you up on words. So the reason why he's asking this is because he's asking the brother, is Greek a biblical nationality, right? Now, check it, he goes all the way back to the 10th chapter of the book of Genesis, because he knows that the term Greek is not mentioned there. But let me show you something. And see, like the brother, he could have easily said, no, you don't see the word Greek in the 10th chapter of the book of Genesis, but the Greeks descend from these people. So let's look at this, right? So we at the 10th chapter of the book of Genesis, and I'm going to start reading verses, I'm going to just read verses 1 through 4, because I'm going to make a point, right? So it says, now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Rephath, Togarmah. The sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim, right? So let's look at the dictionary for verse 4, 10th chapter. So let's look at the word Kittim real quick. Now, and then we're going to go up, I think, verse 3. Check it out. It says Chittim or Kittim, a plural form, Genesis 10 and 4. The name of a branch of descendants of Javan. Now, mind you, that Japheth is the father, but you got descendants that's coming out of Javan, right? Or Javan. It says the son of Japheth. Balaam foretold 24:24 of the book of Numbers that ships shall come from the coast of Chittim and afflict Eber. Daniel prophesies, Daniel 10:11 and 30, that the ships of Chittim will come against the kings of the north, or the king of the north. It says it probably denotes Cyprus, whose ancient capital was called Kittim by the Greeks, right? Or Kishion by the Greeks. Now let's go back to Genesis 10, and then we're going to read verses 2. One second. Okay, Javan. This is coming out of Eastern Bible Dictionary. It says, the son of Japheth, whose descendants settled in Greece. Now, what they're trying to make it seem like the Greeks was already there before they came. No, they wasn't. They are the Greeks. You know what I'm saying? Like the children of Javan, which eventually became what you would call the Greeks. So it says, whose descendants settled in Greece, Ionia, which bear the name of Javan in Hebrew. Alexander the Great is called the king of Javan, right? It's because these are their descendants. This word was universally used by the nations of the East as a generic term of the Greek race. So when the brother that asked him, is the term Greek a biblical nationality? Of course it is, because we finna show you. Let's look at Daniel 8. One second. Daniel 8. I gotta find the verse. Matter of fact, let's do this. Look up the word Grecian. Okay. Now don't worry about the Grecians of the New Testament because we're going to make a point with that. It says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their borders, right? So let's look at something. Let's turn to the word, look at the word Grecians. Okay. Now, when you look at this, you look at the word Grecians, right? And then it'll go to the word Hellenist. Now, when you look at the word Hellenist, Hellenist is nothing but a biblical term that denotes the present term of today when you look at the word colonialism. It's because not just the nation of Israel, but the nations, the world that was existing back then, they were all Hellenized under the Greeks. And it would start with Alexander. But what was so significant about Alexander, the Greek or the Great, is that he had a fascination with different cultures. So even though he conquered those people, he still allowed them to maintain their culture. It didn't come until Antiochus and Ptolemy, when they come on the scene, then they started to, you can't practice your culture. You got to come up under the Greek culture. And if you don't come up under the Greek culture, meaning that you're going to become Greeks, then we're going to put you to death. So when we look at the term Hellenist, we have to look at it at the same way as we're going to look at the term colonialism. Is because what comes with colonialism? Colonialism comes with you got to take on their education. You got to take on their language. You're going to take on their politics, their religion, and their social living, right? This is what comes with colonialism. So when we looking at the term Hellenist, we have to look at it the same way. And I'm saying this for a reason. It's because under the term Grecians, it says Hellenist, Greek Jews. Now, the term Jew is a new term today, brothers and sisters. That was not used during 2,000 years ago. So really what it should say is Greek-speaking Israelites. Is because you got to go back to the first chapter of the book of Maccabees. That's what we're going to go to next. The first chapter of the book of Maccabees, it shows you how the nation of Israel started to adopt the Greek culture. Some did it by force because they were scared, and then some willfully did this, right? Our people, either we did it out of fear, or some willfully did it because they wanted to be just like the Greeks, right? So it says Hellenists, Greek-speaking Jews, Jews born in a foreign country, right? Because when you look at our history, we was in slavery under the Greeks, and we was in slavery under different fractions of Greeks. See, it started with Alexander, then Ptolemy, then Antiochus. I would say Ptolemy and Antiochus, they gave us a more rigorous form of slavery. See, Alexander, he still allowed us to keep the Sabbath and practice our culture. under Ptolemy and Antiochus, they want that you gonna take on their culture, and if you don't do this, you're gonna be put to death. And see, when we start talking about the mark of the beast, that's really a form of the mark of the beast, because the mark of the beast is the philosophy and teaching of what you will call the Gentile world power system, or the Babylonian mystery system, right? So it says Greek Jews born in foreign countries, but and thus did not speak Hebrew. So you had some brothers and sisters that knew they was Israel, that was colonized by the Greeks. They lost their nationality. They weren't even speaking it. And it's probably about 100 and something years, however long that the Greeks had us in slavery, a lot of us lost our language. But you had some of us that were still living in the land. They still maintained their language because of the war that was going on between Timotheus and Judas Maccabeus and all the brothers. They was fighting against the Greeks to maintain their culture. So the history of the Maccabees, that is a very good book to read when you really want to get in depth with the history of our ancestors in slavery under the Greeks, right? So it says, Hellenists, Greek Jews born in foreign countries, and thus did not speak Hebrew, Acts 6:1, 9 and 29. Now let's look at this. Now it says, Acts 6:1. It says, in those days, when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in daily ministration. Now, why am I looking at this? It's because these are Israelites, that is what they would call Greek-speaking Jews. They Israelites, but they speak Greek. And they probably spoke a form of Hebrew also. You know what I'm saying? But what are they having a dispute about? They having a dispute about the law. That's what they having a dispute about. So let's look at this, 9 and 29. It says that he spake boldly in the name of Yah and the Mashiach Yahshua, and disputed against the Grecians, but they went about to slay him. So this is another dispute, right? So who is these Grecians? The Grecians are the Israelites, because you had a lot of our ancestors. They spoke Koine Greek, see, and they dealt with the Greek culture. And see, another thing that they could have been battling over is the fact that you had a lot of our people, they followed the Creator. And then you had certain our ancestors, they didn't follow the Creator. And some of these folks, they were. Some of these Hebrews that adopted the Greek culture, they started looking at themselves as Greeks. And then when you see Paul and them, they out there preaching, Peter and all them, a lot of these Hebrews that looked at themselves as Greeks, they had an issue with a lot of, and see, let me tell you something. We're going through that even to this day. We're going through that even to this day. It's just a different paradigm. Our people don't know who they are from a nationalistic standpoint of view, but the religion that the Greeks was following is a form of what you would call Christianity. They didn't call it Christianity then, but they were all sun worshipers. And this is what a lot of times our ancestors was coming against the Israelites about, is because they didn't want to follow the ways of their ancestors. They wanted to follow the heathen ways. And see, this is why a lot of them, they were trying to kill Hebrews. And that's indicative even to this day. Is because you got a lot of so-called black people that don't want to accept the fact that they ancestors that came over here in the 1600s, that they are descended from the nation of Israel. They don't want to hear that. See, they want to continue to follow the customs of America, the modern day Greco-Roman Empire, right? So let's look at this. Joel 6:3. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far. Now these Grecians right here are literal Greeks. Right? These are literal Greeks. It's because the term Grecians in the Old Testament always referred to, quote unquote, the Greeks that was conquering Israel. So when the brothers say that is there a biblical nationality called the Greeks, of course it is. We showed you where the Greeks descend from. The Greeks descend from Javan. See, that's where they descend from. And just like they said, Alexander the Great, I think his land was named after what? The children of Javan. See, it's because those are basically his ancestors. Those are his so why is Naquan, the leader of Wi-Fi, Watchman For Israel, why is he making this statement that do he know who the Greeks is? Because what he's trying to convey to the brother is that every time you see the word Greek, that's an Israelite. No, it's not. See, and a lot of times the author make it very clear on who the Israel is in what you would call the book of Acts, because they will call them things, they would call them certain words like Grecians. And that's what we see in Acts 6:1, Acts 9:29. When they talking about the Grecians of the New Testament, a lot of times, 99% of the time, it will be called Israelites that speak Greek. But see, when we go to this word here, let's look at the word Greek. Right, let's check this out, because you got a lot of terms, even in the New Testament, the term Greek, right? So a lot of times, man, you just got to go back and research. Because what he's trying to say is that the term Greek is synonymous to the Israelites, and that's not entirely true. The Israelites, they were conquered by the Greeks. Let's look at this. Now check this out. Eastern Bible Dictionary, you look up the word Greek, right? Matter of fact, I need to grab me a dictionary. I gotta look at my dictionary too, because I got a Young's Bible Dictionary. I'm finna grab it real quick. Look, 1 second. Let me grab my dictionary. We got the Young's Bible Dictionary on deck, and the Young's Bible Dictionary goes into that also, right? Let me just grab hold to it real quick. can't even find my dictionary. Where's my dictionary? Oh, there you go. Alright, because we're going to be reading on different terms of the Greeks, right? Now, when I read from this dictionary, you're not going to be able to see it. But I'm going to read some stuff out of here. So, it says Greek, found only in the New Testament, where a distinction is observed between Greek and Grecians. Why are they saying that? It's because you're going to have some of our people that is going to be referred to as Grecians. But in actuality, they Israelites. That's why in the New Testament, like when you looking up certain words, it will say Greek-speaking Jews. It's because the writer is conveying to the reader on who the actual Greeks are and who the actual Hebrews are. So it says found only in the New Testament, where a distinction is observed between Greek and Grecian. The former is a Greek by race. So when they talk about Greek by race, we understand there's only one race, and that's the human race, right? So what are they telling you? They saying Greek by nationality. That's why they go to Acts 16, 1 through 3. That's what Naquan is conveying to the brother, but he's trying to say that that was an Israelite because he's married to an Israelite woman. That's not true. See, he's an actual Greek, and that's not a uncommon thing for Israelites to marry other nations. We have done that before, not on a large scale, but we have done this. The men have taken women from other nations, and they have had kids with them, right? So it says, then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewish, right? Like I say, she was an Israelite. They didn't know nothing about no Judaism. See, that's nothing but a mistranslation on purpose, because every time, this is a part of colonialism too. When you have these nations, they take on your culture. They start to rewrite history. So every time you see a word, a particular word, what's going to pop in your head is that, oh, that's the white man. The white man was around ruling 2,000 years ago, and no, he wasn't. So a lot of these different nuances or these different key words will be put in the Bible on purpose so that every time you will hear the word Jew, psychologically you're going to think of the Caucasian, because that's what you see over there today. Oh, Benjamin Netanyahu and them, they've been around for centuries. The so-called white man that we look at today is nothing but a mutation of the so-called black man. And a lot of these Caucasians that you see today, they was in the Caucasus Mountains. This is where they beginnings come from. And because you had different black people that was turning white throughout the history of what you would call leprosy, and different catastrophic events, because you had like the Ice Age, and you had different events that happened throughout history, right? And you had a lot of these so-called black people from different nations, tongues, right, and cultures. They were turning white. And a lot of times they will go off into what you would call the Caucasus Mountains. This is where a lot of people was being sent to. And then what's taking place? The dawn of a new nation of people is going to be on the rise. But I'm going to do more research on that, and I'm going to start doing lessons on that on my own, right? But let's look at this. So it says the son of a certain woman, which was what they would call a Jewish and believed, for his father was a Greek. See, right here, this is a literal Greek. This is not an Israelite that speak Greek. No, brothers and sisters. This is a literal Greek. Because a lot of times in the New Testament, when they're talking about Grecians, they're talking about Hebrews. That's who they're talking about. The Grecians of the New Testament are Hebrews, and the Grecians of the Old Testament are Gentiles. It's because these are the nations that was conquering the world during that time, right? So it says, but his father was a Greek, which was well reported by the brethren that were at Lystra and Iconium. Him would Paul have to go forth with him and took and circumcised him because of the Israelites which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was a Greek. Now, when you go into the history of the Maccabees, our ancestors wasn't allowed under Antiochus to circumcise themselves, right? But see, this is a literal Greek. This is not an Israelite that's speaking Greek. This is a literal Greek. But the reason why he thinks that this is an Israelite is because he's reading the definitions of a Greek also. But a lot of times these brothers, because they've been brought up in a certain type of school of thought, they can't comprehend a lot of time what they're reading. Like, give you an example, right? A lot of these books that I have accumulated over a period of time, a lot of these books I got from them. But a lot of, one Israelite brother said this. He said, man, we got that book, King James the fifth or the fourth, in the revised of Christendom or something like that. I got the book. A lot of them people, they don't even read those books. They just got those books because they are thinking that King James was a so-called black man, which he probably was. You know what I'm saying? But they don't know that King James practiced. He celebrated Christmas. He celebrated Easter. He acknowledged that the Pope, the Vatican was the mega church, all this type of stuff. King James was a pagan, right? But a lot of them, they don't read those books. So what I'm saying is that a lot of times they don't comprehend what they're reading. They're just going off of what they've been taught at their schools. Like a lot of times when you go to school, these Israelite schools, they teach you precepts and stuff like that, but what is the meaning of these different precepts? What is the story behind this stuff? Timotheus' father was a Greek, but he got Israelite blood pumping through his vein because of his mama. But we know that the man carries the seed. So in actuality, Timotheus was an Israelite. So why is it that Paul and all of them are inspired to preach to the other nations, right? And this is not nothing new. It's because Israelites, even though we was fighting a physical war against the other nations in the Old Testament, right? We have always adopted other nations. David ruled for 40 years up over I think it was like 40 years that he ruled that they didn't have no wars. But he controlled a lot of these different quote unquote Hamite nations, Shemite nations, because the Edomites and the Moabites, they Shemites. They was up under him. So this is not a new thing that the Israelites had Gentiles amongst them. This is in our history. But the only difference is that we coming up out of the physical and now we going into the spiritual. So why is Paul and the rest of them, why is they going and teaching the quote-unquote Gentiles? We're going to get that in a minute. Let's look at this. It says, then all the Greeks took Sosthenes, if I'm pronouncing it right, the chief ruler of the synagogue, and beat him before the judgment seat. And Gallio cared for none of those things. See, these are literal Greeks. Romans 1:14. I am adept both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and the unwise. See, all of these are literal Greeks. Check this out. Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil. It says of the Jew first and also of the Gentile. Now, the one west, the brothers that take on the one west thought, the brothers that take on the one west thought, they'll make it seem like that the Gentiles are quote unquote Israelite foreigners. No, brothers. And even though the Israelites were scattered throughout all nations, but these are literal Gentiles. So when in the book of Romans 1:14, in the book of Romans 2:9, of the Jew first and of the Gentiles, that's talking about that's talking about the nations. See, it's because the nation of Israel got to get the spirit of Yah first, and then the nation of Israel, they got to teach the other nations. But we don't want to teach the other nations is because, see, right now, we're being refined. See, we still bitter because the nations had us in slavery. We got the spirit of who we got the spirit of? We got the spirit of Jonah on us. Because, Jonah posed to go preach to the children of Nineveh, but he didn't want to preach to them because they enslaved Israel. So Jonah had to be swallowed up 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly. And then when the whale spitted him out, then he understood what was going on. Then he went to go preach to the children of Nineveh because he had to give them an opportunity to repent. The reason why he didn't want to do it at first is because he was bitter. That's how we are today. See, that's why you got a lot of us on the streets. We will say things like, salvation ain't for the Gentiles, all this type of stuff, because, see, we still bitter. But, see, we've been swallowed up in the whale's belly, which symbolically means what? We've been in slavery under the nations for almost 3,000 years. Now the Creator's in the process of spitting us out. And some of us that understand while we were swallowed up in the first place, now we starting to come out and preach not just to Israel, but to the other nations too. It's because they have to be given the opportunity to change their life. That's a part of the gospel of the kingdom. So in Romans 2:9, when it says of the Jew first, meaning that what? Israel got to get this first. And also of the Gentiles, because the Gentiles, they got to get it also. So that's not the northern kingdom. See that they teaching that that's the southern and the northern kingdom. No, that's not. That's not the northern kingdom. But glory and honor and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Israelite first and also to the Gentiles. See? So we understand that when it's talking about Gentiles, it's talking about really the children of the children of Japheth, right? But when you look up the word Gentile means goyim, which is nations. So any nation that's outside of Israel that want to understand who the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is, they going to get this too. See, they going to have to get it because after the battle of Armageddon,
what he called Greeks.
They're not called Greeks in Genesis chapter 10, but the descendants of Javan are Greeks.
The descendants of Javan were Japhites. Those are Japhites.
They're Japhites, and Japhites are Greeks.
So you make
let's look at something, right? Let's continue. See, my man Naquan, he's wrong. It's because the Greeks and the Romans are Japhites. That's who they are. See, the Greeks and the Romans are Japhites. They come from the children of Japheth. But see, they know that Japhet or Japheth was a so-called black man. So they'll try to say that all the children of Japheth were black people, like what they would call the original Australians and all this type of stuff. They'll try to say that those were the original Japhites and different other black nations and stuff like that. But the Caucasian comes out of that situation too. Right? I'm going to read this definition out of the Young's Bible Dictionary. Javan, the son of Japheth and grandson of Noah, whose name passed on to the Ionians, Greeks. So the Ionians were Greeks, brothers and sisters. That's who the Greeks were. So this whole notion that the Greeks, see, because they try to make it seem like the Greeks, they try to make it seem like the Greeks were the children of Japheth. No, they wasn't. And see, if you still teaching something like that, see, you still in darkness, brothers. You still in darkness. Let's look at this, and that's basic. If you can't get the basic stuff, that's basic. That's like Head Start. If you can't get Head Start, but see, you got some of us back in the day, we had to quit school. See, a lot of us ain't go to school back in the sharecropping days. So you got a lot of sharecropping mentality Negroes. They know how to do stuff with their hands, but they not educated. They don't read books. And then when they read, they can't comprehend what they reading. This is grammar school stuff. Japheth, the son of Noah, according to the names of his son, the ancestors of the Indo-European people, from the east coast of Europe to Persia. See? Oh, what is this guy talking about? Talking about Japhites. The reason why he's saying this is because he wants the people to believe that the Romans and the Greeks are Edomites. Now, if you go to a Tanakh, right? A Tanakh is gonna try to tell you that the Edomites, in the commentaries, that the Edomites
Making my point, right? You're superimposing modern day terminology over biblical nationality. Right. The sons of Japheth,
and you find out
Arjavan, Argo, right? Armadai. Those are Japhites.
They don't know nothing about history.
Modern day people ascribe those people to being from the land of Kittim, which is today called Greece. So it's not a biblical nationality, it is a modern day structure, right? Now, bring out the word Greek right here. We're going to show you something. Because Timothy's father was a Greek. The point is, Greek is not a biblical nationality. It's not a white man, right? It's not a descendant of Alexander the Great or any of those men. Bring this up.
Right, this is G1672. Right, Helen.
What is it?
Helen.
Right, Helen. Right? Have you heard of the Hellenization of the Jews?
Yes.
Right? Who enforced the Hellenization of the Jews?
Alexander the Great?
Alexander the Great. Who else?
I don't know.
All right. The Ptolemies, the Seleucids, Antiochus Epiphanes IV. So what they did was they went to all of the Israelites and they forced them to become Hellenes. They forced them to become Greeks. That's why Timothy's father is called a Greek. He's an Israelite, but he was forced to adopt the name of a Greek. Give me 2 Maccabees, hold that, chapter 6 and verse number 9.
2 Maccabees 6 and 9, and it reads,
Bring it out!
and whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles
If you didn't conform yourself to the manner of the Gentiles, what would happen?
should be put to death.
No, it's okay.
Should be put to death.
Right, you were put to death if you didn't call yourself a Greek. That's why you had the Hasmonean dynasty who overthrew the Greeks.
To the manner of the Gentiles.
If you didn't conform yourself to the manner of the Gentiles, what would happen?
Should be put to death.
No, it's okay. Should be put to death. Right, you were put to death if you didn't call yourself a Greek. Right, well, you had the Hasmonean dynasty who overthrew the Greeks.
So he's going into the history. He going into First Maccabee, right? The first chapter. You got to go to the history of the Maccabees. Great book. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this segment off, and then I'm going to go into part 2. Shalom.